Flav Oriana, brought to you by Four Corner Sports. Alright guys, so once again, this episode is on Clean Feed. Alright, no video today. Most likely a video will be done this weekend. And we're going to be talking everything about UFC 257, headlined by the notorious Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier, co-main evented by Dan Hooker, and the UFC debut of Michael Chandler. Now, we're going to talk about that. Plus, we had fights this past week with Max Holloway versus Calvin Kattar. Wednesday's card was headlined by Michael Chiesa versus Magny. And then we'll talk into other news that, which UFC fighters going to be fighting, pretty soon. And all that good stuff. All right, guys. So we'll kick it off, with Max Holloway versus Calvin Kattar. That fight actually happened on the 16th. Yes, on the 16th. I didn't put out no videos or anything like that. Was debating whether or not I should put a video out right then and there. Then I'm like, you know what? I just finished watching the Michael Chiesa Neil Magny fight. I'll put it out right then and there, and then I'll put in my UFC 257 predictions. So yeah, Max Holloway versus Calvin Kattar. Tremendous fight. One fight of the night. My opinion, after watching these two cards, still the best fight out of any other fight that has been displayed out there by the UFC. And Max Holloway has showed why there is levels to this. There is levels on being one of the best in your respective division, and being one of the best in the world. And Calvin Kattar is easily one of the best strikers, boxers in the featherweight division. He is not in the same class, in the same category as Max Holloway. Max Holloway showed why there's levels to this. He showed why he is the better fighter. Everything from a spinning back kick to the gut to a left high kick, towards the different angles, the approaches that he was taking to Calvin Kattar. And Calvin Kattar, I mean, he is as Boston strong as they come. This guy was taking an absorbent amount of punishment. I felt like that fight could have been stopped anywhere from the third round up until the fifth round. The fight went into decision, and three judges had a 50-43. No, two judges had a 50-43, and then one judge even had it as a 50-42. That's pretty crazy, because think about it. Those numbers right there show you there was multiple 10-8 rounds. One judge decided to give a 10-7 round. It's crazy. It's really crazy to think that how everything transpired with that fight, and the amount of punishment that Calvin Kattar took. I mean, let's expect him to come back no earlier than July. I mean, because he took an absorbent amount of punishment. I mean, he probably took, I believe the striking numbers, he ended up throwing, I don't know, it was definitely more than a couple hundred. But Max Holloway threw a series in a huge volume of punches. He was throwing 6-7 piece combinations, and Calvin Kattar had no answer for that whatsoever. He really did not. Now, I felt like in the fourth round, that was the best time for Herb Dean to stop the fight. And Herb was watching. He was paying attention very closely. And yeah, Calvin Kattar responded back. I felt like at one point, Max Holloway really just wanted to punish Kattar. Taking out that aggression on Kattar because of the fact that he ended up losing his fight with what's his name, Alexander Volkanovski, and which I understand, because he got robbed. In my opinion, I still feel to this day he got robbed when they ended up fighting on Fight Island, and I think that Max should be the champion to this day. So he just punished Kattar. Kattar, shows that he definitely does have a chin. But what's next for both guys? For Max, in my opinion, doesn't matter who fights on, who ends up becoming the winner on March 27th. Yes, it got announced that Alexander Volkanovski will be defending his title against Brian Ortega. Yes, T-City Brian Ortega. He's going to get a second crack at the title. Not facing Max Holloway, he's facing Alexander Volkanovski. So we'll see how that goes. stylistically, if we're gonna see everything that we had saw in the last fight of Brian Ortega, I actually would favor Brian Ortega over Alexander Volkanovski. Although you got Volkanovski's wrestling and his striking, so I think his striking is a little bit better than Ortega. But if Ortega is able to grow his striking from when he had fought the Korean Zombie up until March 27th, that would be crazy. That would be crazy. But anyways, I feel that Max Holloway is going to be fighting either one of those guys. In my opinion, in a fair world, I want him to fight Alexander Volkanovski, just because we have seen what he did to Brian Ortega when he last fought in 2018. I mean, he demolished him. I mean, he couldn't even finish the fight. I believe he ended up breaking an orbital bone in Brian Ortega's face, which is crazy. I mean, and at that time when he fought Ortega, he had the record for most significant strikes landed in a fight. Holloway. But Holloway ended up breaking that record again. He ended up breaking that record again, but when he ended up fighting Calvin Kattar. So you see the trend that how much punches, Max Holloway ends up throwing inside of a fight. So yeah, so Holloway is going to end up fighting, in my opinion, the winner of Volkanovski versus Ortega, which is scheduled to be taking place on March 27th. You have what are you going to do with Calvin Kattar? In my opinion, Calvin Kattar most likely doesn't take a fight up until, give or take, about like June. Just to heal from all that, wear and tear, that damage that he ended up taking from Holloway. Now, this is a step back because considering the fact that Calvin Kattar was ranked number 6 in the world in the featherweight division. So he's going to fall back. I want to say that he's most likely going to end up fighting somewhere definitely inside the top 10. I don't see him fighting Zabit because maybe Zabit might be a good option for him, just because Zabit hasn't fought since 2019. So it's been a while. Does he fight what's it called, the Korean Zombie? I have no idea. I'm not sure. Or does he take a step back and fight somebody like a Sadiq Youssef? Which I wouldn't be I actually might be in favor for that. How about Sadiq Youssef? I don't think Sadiq Youssef has a fight scheduled anytime soon. I know but his most recent fight was against Andre Fili. He fights somebody of the caliber of Calvin Kattar. We'll be able to find out more about Sadiq Youssef, and if Calvin Kattar, handles business like he should, then it pushes him back into the echelon where he should be, inside the top 5. Only reason why I'm not putting Zabit in a matchup with Calvin Kattar is just because Zabit hasn't fought in quite some time. I don't know when he's planning to fight. You have the whole dilemma with Yair Rodriguez, so I don't know when he's planning on fighting, as well too. I feel like Zabit and Yair Rodriguez should be fighting each other. Josh Emmett, he tore like pretty much every single muscle inside of his knee. So maybe Sadiq Youssef would be the proper challenge for him. You could go with somebody along the lines of Jeremy Stevens, but he already beat Jeremy Stevens with that elbow shot. Arnold Allen, I'm not really crazy about that. He already faced Dan Ige. Don't want to see Kattar fight Shane Burgos again. So Sadiq Youssef, in my opinion, sounds like the most realistic matchup that the UFC can put up for. So that ended up happening on the 16th. It was actually the first show on ABC. So first time ever the UFC was on ABC. It was tremendous. Tremendous card. I'm not going to cover every single fight from that card. I'm only going to cover the main event, like I just said. On that fight card, you had Alessio Di Chirico versus Joaquin Buckley. Alessio Di Chirico ended up knocking out Buckley with the high leg kick. Matt Brown versus Carlos Condit. Carlos Condit ended up winning. So you had some good fights. But moving on into the Michael Chiesa and Neil Magny card, I'm only gonna cover two fights on that card, and obviously one is gonna be Chiesa versus Magny. So this is This is the fourth fight that Michael Chiesa has had in his welterweight division run. He won his previous 3 matches at welterweight. He looked good. I mean, it looked like he what's it called? Him not cutting so much weight and him able to focus on more of his skill set was a huge move in the right direction that he needed to take by moving up to welterweight. And Neil Magny, has been in that division for quite some time, is challenging to break Georges St. Pierre's record for most wins in the welterweight division. So that's telling you something. Anytime you're in the conversation on breaking Georges St. Pierre's record, I mean, you've been around for quite some time. You are a really good fighter. But Michael Chiesa versus Neil Magny. Michael Chiesa showed that his wrestling is more dominant than Neil Magny and was able to control the ground game. He had, I believe, over 10 minutes of ground control on Neil Magny. Now, I know some people really don't care for wrestling and stuff like that. You know, they say that it's boring, grappling is boring, and watching that type of stuff. But I think it's actually really nice to begin with, because think about it. It's a different form of fighting. It's obviously, for me personally, I feel like fighting is an art. And for you to grapple and be able to dominate somebody like that, letting them know, like, hey, no matter what you do, you're not going to be able to get out of this. It's pretty remarkable. I mean, in my opinion, the best wrestler in the world is Khabib Nurmagomedov. After that would be Kamaru Usman, currently, right? And those two are the two best in their respective division. They're able to dominate a fight whenever they want to, because they could always go back to that wrestling, and that wrestling is always going to be there. And Michael Chiesa ended up displaying that to Neil Magny, and Neil Magny had no answer whatsoever. Chiesa showed why he was a better fighter, and he dominated all 5 rounds. All 5 rounds. I know that there was a judge that gave a round to Neil Magny. I would say that's the 4th round that Neil Magny ended up winning. I would have given it to Chiesa, but it really doesn't matter at this point that Magny ended up winning a round. My opinion, Neil Magny is always going to be a top 10 welterweight. Is he going to be able to move on forward into the division, into the elite category in the top 5? I don't see that. I mean, he has lost to fighters in the welterweight division like in RDA. I see him always contending, fighting like the newcomers into the top 15. People like a Jeff Neal, which I feel like that's going to be the next matchup that happens for both sides, because Jeff Neal lost to Stephen Thompson on the last card of 2020, and you had Neil Magny just recently losing to Michael Chiesa. So I do feel that Magny is in a fight, just people, from 15 to 10. I see him fighting somebody, like a Vicente Luque, a Jeff Neal, a Bilal Muhammad, people of that magnitude. I know he has asked to fight Khazmat Chimaev when Khamzat was looking for an opponent. I don't see him fighting Khazmat Chimaev, because Khazmat Chimaev, he'll be able to dominate him from what we saw of what Michael Chiesa has done. I feel like Chiesa is going to be ascending. Does Chiesa belong inside that elite category of the top 5? Maybe. I mean, I could see Chiesa fighting somebody like a Tyron Woodley, which actually could be pretty, crazy to think, because Woodley has lost his last 3 fights in a row. Got dominated by Covington, got dominated by Gilbert Burns, got dominated by Kamaru Usman. Does the UFC want to put him against Michael Chiesa? I don't know. But he made a call out on Colby Covington. Clearly called him out based off his views on his election. His political views. Saying that the election is over, you're next or whatever. I don't see Covington fighting Chiesa next. I think the fight to make when it comes to Colby Covington definitely has to be Covington versus Masvidal. Does Masvidal want that smoke? Or is Masvidal playing hard to get because he wants a big payday? I don't know, but that's where it comes down to, in my opinion. I think Covington is ready. Covington knows that he could dominate Masvidal. But I think as a backup plan for the UFC, it would be nice to see Michael Chiesa versus Colby Covington, because clearly there is some type of beef, and when there's some type of beef in the UFC, I want to see it. I wanted to see Joaquin Buckley fight James Krause, with Buckley losing to Alessio De Jericho. I think we're further and further away from that possibility happening. But getting back to Covington and like Michael Chiesa, oof, sign me up for that matchup. Sign me up for that matchup. I want to see who's the better wrestler. And I think it might actually come down to something similar to what we saw with Covington versus Masvidal, where they're just grabbing it up, swinging at each other. If that's the case, I favor Covington over Chiesa, but we'll see what happens. Obviously, Dana, Mick Maynard, Sean Shelby are all going to be in charge of that decision, and we as fans, we're going to have to wait for that. All right, moving on. We also had another fight on that card that really stuck out to me. And in my opinion, look out, guys, because if you're a fan of the bantamweight division, you got a newcomer that's rising, that is going to be ascending. He made his UFC debut. Umar Nurmagomedov. Yes, Umar Nurmagomedov. Yes, you already know Nurmagomedov. Legendary name inside the UFC. Obviously, the most famous Nurmagomedov is Khabib Nurmagomedov. And Khabib was cornering Umar for his debut. He was fighting Sergey Mazagrov. And, yeah. So if you're thinking that Umar and Khabib fight, exactly the same, wrong. They do not fight exactly the same. Khabib is more wrestler. Umar is more kickboxer. So if you guys are not grappling fans, you guys like to see guys striking it up, Umar Nurmagomedov is a fighter you want to go see, because he started off the fight with a question mark kick. I mean, he has a really tight, snappy question mark kick, and what's it called? Was throwing a lot of leg kicks, was hurting his opponent, and he looked good. He actually looked good. I was very impressed. Clearly there's a reason why he's undefeated, and for Umar to look this impressive, I mean, I'm ready to see his next fight. I really am. I want to see what he has to offer moving on forward. He's 13-0, beating a tough opponent in Sergey Morozov. I said Mazagrov. Morozov. And he started out, I mean, the fight was went to the second round. Obviously, Sergey ended up popping Umar, displaying his power, where Umar had to display a little bit of wrestling to make sure that he didn't get clipped. But opening into that second round, Umar ended up throwing a high left leg kick, catching Sergey right on the side of his face, and he wobbled. And then Umar rushed across the other side of the octagon, trying to attack and throw an onslaught. He prematurely ended up rushing in, not seeing any openings. He could have stopped the fight. He could have clipped Sergey right then and there, stopping the fight, but he missed an opening right there. And then it ended up turning into a ground game where Umar ended up displaying his power, wrapping his arm around Sergey's neck, and then squeezing like a python, trying to blast and squeeze the throat of Sergey, forcing him to tap out. And it was lights out from there. I mean, Umar Nurmagomedov, it seems like the real deal. And when I saw that fight, I'm like, ooh, if we're going to see this type of, dominance moving forward by the Nurmagomedovs, I mean, they're looking like they're going to be here to stay. What they're doing in Dagestan right there, Dagestan looks like the mother grail when it comes to developing UFC fighters. I think the UFC should really look into that area, because they're building some monsters. They're building some indestructible monsters in Dagestan. But yeah, Umar Nurmagomedov looks great. Who should Umar fight next? I mean, I don't know. I like Ricky Simon. I don't know. I would like to see him fight up with Umar. They're both 135 pounders. I know Ricky Simon wants to fight Brian Kelleher. I think I'm over that matchup right there. I know they ended up hitting each other up on like Twitter and something like that. I think I'm a little bit over that matchup between the potential of Ricky Simon versus Brian Kelleher. I'd rather see Umar Nurmagomedov get a crack out of Ricky Simon. I think that should be great. Both can wrestle. I think Umar needs to work a little bit more on his ground game, but both can strike. They love to throw hands right there, especially Ricky Simon. Ricky Simon has good hands. He's pretty dominant. He's more of a featherweight than a bantamweight, but that's a fight I would love to see. Umar Nurmagomedov versus Ricky Simon. All right, and then lastly, guys, UFC 257. So I'm gonna give you guys my predictions. I'm gonna give you guys my predictions from from prelims all the way up to to the main card, which is obviously the headliner, Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier. All right, without further ado, so early prelims, Amir, you're gonna have a flyweight matchup between Amir Abbasi versus Zalka Zumagov. Amir is 13-1. Zakazov is 13-4. I'm gonna go with Amir. Amir getting the victory by decision. Nick Letts versus Mozarv Ilov. The veteran Nick Letts is returning back into the octagon versus the young prospect Mozarv Ilov. I believe, I think, in my opinion, ring time is gonna get the advantage over here. Octagon time, and I think Nick Letts stops the hype train of Mozarv Ilov. Then you're gonna have Andrew Sanchez versus Magomed Mordov. And I got Andrew Sanchez by knockout in the second round. Mind you, the early prelims start at 6:30. Moving on, in the women's bantamweight division, the Venezuelan vixen herself, Juliana Pena, facing Sarah McMahon. I got Juliana winning by submission, second round, over Sarah McMahon. The gatekeeper himself, Brad Tavares versus Antonio Carlos Jr. Brad Tavares, I don't know. I just feel like when Brad Tavares fights, he wins one fight, he loses another fight. Last fight he fought was against Edmund Shabazian in 2019. Did not fight in 2020. I think he's going to get it done. I think he's going to get the win over Antonio Carlos Jr. So he breaks his one-loss losing streak. He's going to go back into the win column versus Antonio Carlos Jr. by decision. And then the feature prelim, Arman Tuscaroyan versus Nazareth Haperson. It's a fight at 155, and I'm going to go with the younger fighter. I'm going to go with Arman Tuscaroyan. Think he's going to get the victory by decision. Moving into the main card. All right, guys. So you got the return of Amanda Ribas. Amanda Ribas had a pretty successful 2020, getting a victory by submission over Paige Van Zandt, kicking her out of the UFC. That was her last fight in the UFC because her contract ran up against, a very respectable young lady who has a lot of hype going into this fight, Marina Rodriguez. I'm not sure because Marina Rodriguez had a lot of hype when she fought Carla Esparza. Carla Esparza is in the debate, in the question whether or not she should be fighting for a title, whether she should be fighting Weili Chang. This is what Dana White has said, that if they can't get a fight with Rose Namajunas to fight Weili Chang, then it's me, Carla Esparza. So that's to show you right there how high the company thinks of Marina Rodriguez. But against Amanda Ribas, I don't know. If this is going to become a stand-up game, I'm going to give it to Marina Rodriguez. I think she has a better stand-up game than Amanda Ribas. But this goes onto the floor, I'm going to give it to Amanda Ribas. I don't know. You know what? I think Marina Rodriguez gets it done. I think the fight that she ended up losing to Carlos Esparza, she lost by decision. It's not like she got knocked out or anything like that. She lost by decision against Carlos Esparza. I think she gets it done against Amanda Ribas. Both fighters have one loss in their record. So I got Marina Rodriguez getting the victory by decision. Next, we have in the lightweight division. I'm actually looking forward to this fight. The undefeated Ottman Azaitar versus Matt the Steamroller Favola. Ottman Azaitar, this guy's pretty special, guys. He is pretty special. He ended up fighting Kama Worthy last year on September 12th. He has tremendous power. This guy has a mean right hook. Mean, devastating right hook. And Azaitar has pop. He has pop. But does he get it? I mean, does he keep his undefeated streak over Matt Favola? Matt Favola, last time he fought, he ended up fighting Luis Pena. And a lot of people thought that he lost. I felt like he won that fight. I felt like, I know definitely Luis Pena felt like he got robbed. But I don't know. Azaitar got popped. Favola can control the ground game if necessary. I'm very stuck in the air. Who should they fight? I mean, Azaitar ended up in not the Kama Worthy fight when he fought in September 19th. No, September 7th, 2019. I believe that was the card when they were in Abu Dhabi for Khabib versus Dustin Poirier, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. He ended up fighting Timu Pakalan, and he ended up dropping him. I believe he broke his fist. I believe he broke his hand during that knockout because he generated so much power. He ended up using all that power by his hips, knocking him out. I know Azaitar is somebody to look out for in the lightweight division if he's able to get through Matt Favola. But I think I'm gonna go with the Long Island native Matt Favola getting it done. I think he gets it done by decision because I think if he's able to get past the first round, I believe is gonna go to decision. But we'll see what happens. I got Matt Favola by decision over Ottman Azaitar, snapping his undefeated streak. Next, you have Jessica Eye, right? Yes, the return of the evil eye herself, Jessica Eye versus Joanne Calderwood. I just feel like this is a bad matchup for Jessica Eye. Jessica Eye was highly regarded. I felt like after she had lost to Valentina Shevchenko, things were going downhill, losing to Cynthia Calvillo. Losing, I felt like she's just been losing a lot. Losing to Calvillo. She ended up beating Viviane Araújo, which I felt like Viviane Araújo should have won that fight. But I don't know. I feel like this is a bad matchup. I think Joanne Calderwood gets it done. I think Joanne Calderwood is still sitting with the idea of like, damn, like if I would have just sat on my laurels and not taken a fight, I would have not taken that fight against Jennifer Maia. I would have been fighting for a title. But maybe she'll learn from that lesson that just next time wait. Francis Ngannou is waiting too. But Joanne Calderwood, I think she gets it done. I think she gets it done by submission against Jessica Eye. This is an important fight for Jessica Eye. She's 15-8 right now. It's a lot of losses right there. I think if she gets one more loss, after she loses to Joanne Calderwood, I think it might be, she might be out of a job. So very important fight for Jessica Eye. I think she needs this fight more than Joanne Calderwood. But yeah, I think Joanne Calderwood gets it done. Now going into the co-main event, you have Dan Hooker versus the UFC debut of Michael Chandler. Look, Michael Chandler is a stud. He's a stud, but I just felt like he hasn't fought anybody really good in Bellator. Sure, he in his last fight he beat Benson Henderson, but Benson Henderson is not the UFC fighter. Well, not UFC fighter. Is not the MMA fighter that Dan Hooker is. He's stepping into a fight with somebody who, sure, Dan Hooker never held a title, but I'm pretty sure that Dan Hooker would have held a title if he was in Bellator. And Dan Hooker has fought people like a Paul Felder, like an Al Iaquinta, like a Dustin Poirier. Dan Hooker is the real deal, guys. He is the real deal. Had fight of the night, had a fight. Yeah, definitely had a fight of the night with Dustin Poirier. Had a fight of the night with Paul Felder. He was in 2 out of the 5 fights that were in consideration of fight of the year. That's to show you what type of guy Dan Hooker is. Hooker ended up beating the executioner himself, James Vick. So, I don't know. I just feel like the level of competition that Dan Hooker has faced was far more better than Michael Chandler. And nonetheless, he ended up being Gilbert Burns, who Gilbert Burns is fighting for a title next month. He is going to be fighting Kamaru Usman. And he's also for Edson Barbosa. So, I think I got this as Hooker winning in the second or third round by knockout. I think Chandler is gonna try to really shoot for those takedowns. I think Chandler's gonna utilize his wrestling. But I think Hooker, if it goes into the striking department, Chandler has no shot whatsoever. He has no shot. I know Hooker, has a big height advantage over Chandler, but I don't know. Chandler, what's it called? I think by him fighting like B and C level fighters for the majority of his career, and then him moving up to the major leagues, fighting with the big boys, the A category, the A side. I don't know. I got Hooker winning third round by knockout. And then lastly, it's the return of the notorious Conor McGregor. All right. Last time he fought was over a year ago against Donald Cowboy Cerrone, which I have always felt like that was a joke of a fight. I mean, we knew who was going to win, but we just wanted to see Conor fight. And he's fighting against Dustin Poirier. Now, Vegas has Conor as a minus 300. Now, that's ridiculous in my opinion. Like, they're showing very little to no respect to Dustin Poirier, because anybody that watches, Dustin Poirier is the truth. He's the real deal. I mean, sure, he absorbs a lot of punishment when he fights, but Poirier versus, Conor McGregor, I don't know. If Conor can knock out Dustin inside the first round like he predicts, like how everything had transpired when they last fought 6 years ago, I don't know. This might be a war, which I personally would love. I would love to see a war between Conor versus Dustin. And if this gets into a war, let's see how much his durability, his cardio is going for Conor McGregor. I really do hope it lasts at least 3 to 4 rounds. I don't want to see a first round knockout. I know Conor says he doesn't get paid by the hour. That's why he tries to finish fights as quick as possible, which is fine. We all love that type of stuff. But I really want to see this go to 3 to 4 rounds. If it goes to 3 to 4 rounds, I'm going to favor Dustin Poirier. But we'll see how this goes. This is a question mark. I'm going to have to lean with Conor just because of how he goes from like 0 to 100 immediately as soon as that bell rings. This guy tries to act like the second coming of Mike Tyson, trying to knock people out inside the first round. But yeah, I got Conor McGregor winning by knockout. Is it by devastating knockout like Jose Aldo style? No. I think Dustin Poirier has developed into an amazing fighter who, if Khabib Nurmagomedov was never in the same division as him, he would have been the undisputed champ. But yeah, I got Conor McGregor winning by knockout. And if Conor wins, I know they say that he should be fighting for a title. If Conor wins, and if Khabib Nurmagomedov doesn't want to have anything to do with fighting Conor, I think they should just strip the title from Khabib, because it doesn't seem like Khabib, is all that interested. He just pretty much left it as a maybe. He wanted people to surprise him to see how well he's doing, how well the division is going. If he has any interest in fighting again, if he doesn't have any interest, Dana should just strip him and then have the winner between Justin Gaethje versus Charles Oliveira to fight for the title. I really want that matchup. I know Oliveira feels like he deserves a title shot, but my opinion, in the perfect world, I would love to see Gaethje versus Conor if Conor's able to get through Dustin. But if Dustin wins, I mean, look, I want to see a rematch of Gaethje versus Poirier. That would be crazy. That would be crazy because I think we see a different Justin Gaethje ever since he had lost to Dustin Poirier. I think we've seen a different Dustin Poirier ever since he lost to Conor McGregor. So everybody inside that top 5 has ascended, improved their skill set. Khabib, Conor, Dustin, Gaethje, Dan Hooker. The only one that has descended has been Tony Ferguson because of the amount of punishment that he has taken since the Justin Gaethje fight. But that's my opinion. That's what's going to end up happening for UFC 257. And then also, last but not least, yes, we have confirmation that there is going to be, hopefully for the third time, that it gets done. But you're going to have Khazmat Chimaev getting ready to fight. What's his name? Khazmat Chimaev versus Leon Edwards. Yes, it is going to happen. Khazmat Chimaev will fight Leon Edwards on March 13th. Fight him on March 13th. Should be crazy. I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully, nothing gets into the way between both these fighters fighting, because we as fans, we wanted to see that happen. It was supposed to happen. And yeah, third time should be a charm. Yes, third time should be a charm. Alright guys, without further ado, that covers everything on Flav's MMA show. I'm your host, Flav Oriana, and thank you for tuning in. You got this far into the video, hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you guys at a later date. Peace guys, and have a good one.